Welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your host, the Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach, Joe Vonnie, and I help those with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome reduce chronic pain, eliminate stress, and minimize irregular or heavy periods. Y'all, we have an amazing episode in store for you today. We got Dr. Dionne in the Good Vibes studio, a physical therapist. And when I tell you she has this holistic approach to her healing modality, I just can't wait for y'all to just really learn and be able to be inspired, but most importantly, empowered to do what's best for you on your healing journey. But before we get into this episode, y'all already know what time it is. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast.
I love it.
You was getting it.
I love it.
And speaking of vibe with me, y'all, make sure you check out the merch. The link is in the description of this video. So when you click on the link, the first link is your anti-inflammatory guide. Make sure you grab it because it's free and your life depends on it. But then scroll on down and click on that shop link, shop with me, and get you some good vibe merch. But Dr. Dionne, welcome to the Good Vibe Studio.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here tonight. Hey, y'all.
Okay, so introduce yourself. Let them know who you are.
Awesome. My name is Dr. Dionne Middlebrooks. I am a physical therapist. I specialize in care for women. So yes, I do treat the pelvic floor, but I don't like to say I'm just a pelvic floor therapist because there's so much more to us than just our pelvic floor. A little bit more personal about me. I'm married to a Navy veteran and also a mom of 3. So my life is joyous chaos and I absolutely love it.
I like that. And I like that you say, I just don't help with, because your approach is one that isn't of the typical physical therapist. Like you really have a vibe to what it is that you do and how you provide services. And one of the things that stood out to me was that you like to provide lifestyle modifications.
Yes.
And you really take this holistic approach to your care. Can you talk a little bit about why you take that type of approach and how beneficial it has been to your clients or patients thus far?
Yes, no, definitely. So I take a full body holistic lifestyle approach simply because we're more than just one component. We are mind, body, and spirit. We want to make sure that all of those different things are addressed. And when I'm treating someone physically, a lot of things, especially emotionally and mentally, they can occur and kind of transpire in the physical as well. So people who have pain, they tend to have higher stress levels. They tend to have lack of sleep. They tend to have diets that are more inflammatory. So I need to make sure I'm addressing those issues, because if I'm not, I'm only addressing a very small component of the person. And the goal is so that way you don't need me as much. I have some people who stick with me long term, more so for like tune-ups or check-ins. But if you don't have to see me every day, don't you want to get your life back, save your time and your money? That is the ultimate goal. So when treating someone for any issue itself, it's important that we look at all of those different things. And sometimes it involves seeing just me. Other times it means that I have to actually refer to other providers as well.
I like it. I like it a lot. But what are some of those misconceptions that you typically have to discuss with your patients that might be like your endometriosis patients? What are some of those misconceptions that you kind of have to address?
Well, this one might catch you off guard. This actually came from a conversation today. I had a patient who was misinformed and thought that her menstrual cup was causing her endometriosis.
Wow.
Yes. And I said, where did you get this information from? Well, they were told that by another individual. So they had pretty much been told that anything they were inserting into the vaginal canal during menstruation was causing endometriosis. So I spent a lot of time pretty much like busting myths, especially such as this, because no, your tampon, your menstrual cup, menstrual disc, those are not causing endo. And then the same thing as well, we get into the whole concept as to, well, what did I do wrong? So the educational piece to try to help address that, because with endometriosis and with PCOS, with any type of hormonal issue, it's not necessarily what did you do wrong. It's something that unfortunately has occurred to you. So with me addressing that, I also have to make sure that I'm sensitive to the fact to where even though you didn't cause this, there's certain things that you can do to help better manage it. So let's talk about your diet. Like, are you eating a lot of processed and refined foods? If so, we need to try to eliminate those. And in some cases as well, are you exposed to a lot of BPAs? Why? Because BPAs can mimic estrogen. And guess what endometriosis responds to? It responds to estrogen. So taking a look at those different things, making those lifestyle changes, how much sleep are you getting? Because if you're not getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you're at higher risk for chronic pain-based conditions. Endometriosis, chronic inflammation, chronic pain. We want to make sure that you are addressing those little things. Now, am I saying that with the lifestyle changes and with me providing the education that I'm going to cure your endometriosis? By no means, no. If any person tells you that they're actually providing a cure for your endometriosis, that is false information. What we are doing is we're helping you to treat the symptoms and manage the pain. Even if you see a surgeon who is excising, removing the endometrium tissue, endometriosis tissue, because there is a difference between endometrium and endometriosis. If they're removing pretty much the pathological tissue, they're removing as much as what they can, but there is a chance it can reoccur. However, your quality of life can improve. So we cannot cure it as of yet. Hopefully science gets us there, but we're at least letting you get your life back on track.
I appreciate you saying that. Like, those are some very interesting myths, especially the one that you got today. Like, I never heard that one that you got today, but I love the fact that you said you did not cause your endometriosis, because
Yes.
that was powerful even for myself. Like, I received that when I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis in March of 2020. I was disappointed at my body, and then I wanted to know, what was I doing wrong? I was not on an anti-inflammatory lifestyle as of yet. I was pescatarian, so I was already somewhat starting to become mindful of what I was eating, but the high processed foods was still there. The sugar was definitely still there, and so was the dairy. And so having to really start making those shifts and changes with the dairy, the gluten, the soy, I started to feel better. My period started to regulate. So I became a believer that lifestyle changes could definitely help reverse symptoms and reduce them. I won't say I'm always pain free, because I mean, it's endometriosis. Like, chronic pain is almost like the number one symptom that anybody with endometriosis can experience. But to barely experience the pain is beautiful amongst a lot of people I know with endometriosis who experience pain almost every single day, and not just when their menstrual cycle is on. So I appreciate you saying it's not your fault. It's not something that you caused, but there are things that you can do to change and manage the symptoms that you experience. And that's the power of you, and you being intentional about your healing journey. So thank you for that, Dr. Dionne. And also thank you for also saying, you know, Giovanni, being on this raw journey, because it's been day 65 today, and I just did my mukbang, and I did a spin on some deviled eggs, because I used to love some deviled eggs. So I just tried this new thing on the Nourish and Flourish Vibes mukbang, another segment of this podcast. But you said make sure you're getting in your B12, Giovanni. Like, that's important. And as soon as you said it, I got it. And so I'm just appreciative of the fact that you take a holistic approach, and you care so much about people. And you want people to be their best self, especially when there's things that are beyond their control, like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, like endometriosis or adenomyosis. So I appreciate you for that, for really taking that time to dive in. So let's talk about pelvic floor therapy. Because that right there was an experience all within itself. I didn't even know anything about it until having that excision surgery and being diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. Let's talk about the benefit. First, what is pelvic floor therapy, and what are the benefits and the importance of it?
Awesome. So pelvic floor therapy, first, I have to say this: it is more than Kegels. It is so much more than that, because when people hear like, oh, I'm just going to do, some Kegels or Kegels, depending on where you're from. But I believe the guy's name was originally Kegel, so I'll probably should say it that way. But it's more than just that. It's more than just trying to constantly strengthen the pelvic floor, especially with things such as chronic pain conditions like endometriosis and PCOS, adenomyosis, because when individuals have a lot of pain, it is more than possible for the pelvic floor to respond to that. And we can end up with tightness in the pelvic floor. We can end up with spasms and trigger points in the pelvic floor region. And because of this, that pain can be exacerbated. So in this case of pelvic floor therapy, there are a lot of times we're focusing on relaxation principles, trying to help down regulate the nervous system, trying to help the nervous system, one, recover, teach the person how to remain calm, teach the person how to properly release those muscles, which can be as simple as, hey, you have to stop clenching your jaw. Sometimes it's even starting outside of the pelvic floor region. Now, if the pelvic floor is weak, then yes, we are going to implement different type of Kegel activities. But even then, I can strengthen your pelvic floor without telling you, okay, now squeeze my finger and relax. Okay, squeeze so that way you can see the number on the machine go up. There's so much more to it than just that. We treat things such as pain with intercourse. We treat issues such as vaginismus, vulvodynia. We treat issues when individuals are having abdominal pain, when they're having constipation, when they're having urinary symptoms, whether it be urgency, frequency, incontinence, fecal incontinence. So we treat a lot of different things. And especially when it goes along with endometriosis, a lot of women have GI-based issues. So we're addressing those symptoms as well. So it's so much more than us just telling you, okay, let's tighten the squeeze and then relax. No, we're addressing the entire person. We're making sure that you have a good position on the toilet, that you know exactly what is good for your body, what is not good for your body when it comes to eating. And sometimes that is experimenting. It's also making sure that you know what you can do to help manage your symptoms. And when it comes to just better navigating life, a lot of complaints that I have people come to me with is they want to get back into working out. So how can we safely get this person back into an exercise regimen where they're feeling good, they're not overdoing it, and they're actually able to function at their optimal level? So there's a lot that goes into it. It's more than just the pelvic floor region. Yes, those muscles are so very important, but if the pelvic floor therapist is not treating the whole person, then we've missed something big.
And you hit a lot on that. One, the painful sex, you brought that up. But another thing I wanted to ask you that came to mind is, how does someone even know that they should even be considering pelvic floor therapy? Like what are some of those signs, or what are those things that say, hey, you know what, you should probably consider pelvic floor therapy? And then that next question was going to be about the painful sex, but hit that first one.
Yeah, no worries. Awesome. So you should consider pelvic floor therapy if you, of course, are having pain with intercourse, if you're having pain with any type of penetration, whether it be inserting a tampon, if you're noticing that you're having extremely painful menstrual cycles, or even abdominal cramping or symptoms that are not related to that. If you have tailbone pain, we want to see you. If you have constipation, we want to see you. Now, let me define constipation because you'll get a wide range. I tell people, if you're not having a bowel movement every day, then we need to figure out why. If you're straining, because you should not be pushing, you should be relaxing. If you're straining, we need to figure out why. If you're noticing that you're having any type of leakage, if you're noticing you're having any type of pelvic pain, those are different things that are saying, yes, I need to see a pelvic floor physical therapist. And if you are planning for surgery or have undergone surgery with anything related to the abdominal region, the back, the hips, pelvic region, you want to at least see us so that way we can help prepare you for surgery, because people don't always know how to prepare, and the recovery process is not as easy as what a lot of surgeons make it seem. And then we also want to see you afterwards just to say, hey, yep, everything's good to go. Here's what I want you to continue focusing on, or even saying, hey, we need for you to back off so that way you can have more time to heal. So there are a lot of different reasons. So when in doubt, just reach out.
Come on, when in doubt, just reach out. I like that one. I like that one, Dr. Dionne. I do. Okay, so I think that was definitely a good explanation of why someone should seek pelvic floor therapy. And then I love that you talked about it's not all about the tightening, the relaxation. And a lot of times people don't realize when they stay or they experience so much pain or pelvic pain that they are typically in a tight, tense state all the time, like all the time. And I notice it at times, even when I'm just like sitting at a desk, I can notice that I'm just tense in a certain area. And most of the time it's that left side where that adenomyosis was cited, but it's really like just being tense and it's like relax. And so it's like a thought that constantly comes that says, hey, relax, find the tension in your body and relax, find the tension and relax. And I don't think we stay in a relaxed state very often. It's almost like a forced thing. And most of the times I don't find it until I do deep breathing exercises. And when I do the deep breathing is when I start noticing. And it's every inhale, it's a different place I'm realizing I can relax. Even on a power walk. Like
Yes.
I'm like, whoo, relax. And if I'm not, it's like trying to walk, move the arms. And it's like, that is not helping your body. Can you relax and enjoy this mindful walk? Can you talk about the importance of relaxation and giving the body and the muscles the opportunity to relax?
Yes. So we hold on to a lot of tension, not just in our pelvic floor, but in various different muscles. And when we're holding on to that tension itself, we actually can slow down things such as digestion. We also can impact the way we're functioning with other activities. It also can interfere with our sleep. I'm going to go a little bit more into that, but first I'm going to make you stand up, hon, because you're going to, yes, you're not ready for this. Because this is something I do with a lot of people. I ran track. So if you've ever watched the Olympics, which is coming up, you'll see people on the Olympics, and I call it the track shakeout, because what I want you to do is I want you to unclench your butt. In order to unclench your butt, sometimes you got to shake one leg, shake the other leg, and then shake them both. And then now ease up from that. And you should notice that just by doing that itself, that you feel a lot less tension. So that's one tip I want to share, because that's something I make everyone do. So I have patients that randomly just start shaking, and that's why. That is why. But if you're holding on to a lot of tension as well, you're also going to impact your ability to breathe. And society has already lied to us as women. So a lot of us tend to suck in our stomach normally when we're just out and about. And that can impact our breathing. That also can impact our body's ability to relax. We want to make sure that we're breathing properly. So one, ladies, let the tummy hang. The stomach should move. It should expand out when you inhale. It should move back in a little bit when you exhale. So let it hang. No one is completely flat all the time. It is okay. And so because of that, I do want to at least make sure people know, hey, we want you to properly breathe. Now, if you're holding on to a lot of stress and tension, you're not breathing properly. If you're not breathing properly, you're already going to set yourself up for a chronic stress system. Now, the issue of stress itself is not really the main problem. It is more so how we respond to it, because let's be honest, I can't get rid of everyone's stress in life. I just can't. We're every time we leave the house, we're going to have some type of stress response. But how is your body responding to it? If you already have a lot of triggers that have caused you to be in a more stressful state because of all the tension, now when something else happens, you're going to further tense. And that can cause other issues down the road, especially regarding the pelvic floor. People can have increased pain in the area, increased muscle spasms. They can have urinary urgency because the pelvic floor is so tight. So ladies, one, let the belly hang, do the track shakeout, and breathe for me, okay?
Come on with the track shakeout. I love it. And let the belly hang. As soon as you said, I was like, oh.
Yep.
And I think and I don't think it's always because, like you said, we want to hold in to get that flat stomach. You don't want it poking out in your shirt. I think in addition to that, for me, I was a dancer since the age of 2. And so knowing what type of dance costumes you wear, you want to suck in, you want to pull up in that core. You want to have that good posture with ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical. And it's that constant always sucking in when you're turning. Like I think that was my body's way of being programmed, or my stomach, my abdomen, to like stay tucked in or like sucked in. And when you said, I was like, oh yeah, I am just sitting there. Why not just let it hang? Like as soon as you said it, I did it. And it was like, oh, let the belly hang.
Yep.
Let the belly hang. Maybe that's
there
what
you go.
Do. Let the belly hang.
All right.
Maybe that's kind of what we need to do as a reminder. But you just hit that emotional. You talked about kind of like that in mental health. What about the advice you would give to individuals struggling with the emotional and physical toll of endometriosis? Because you're good with empowering people and the community. What would you say to them? Because like you said, you can bring in other specialties that's going to help you. You're going to reach triggers and stressors every day. So what would be your advice, Dr.
The exact statement that I give to people I see is, I may have a psychology degree, but honey, I'm not a counselor. And I think it's important that, one, as a provider, I recognize my own limitations, because there's certain things that I cannot best advise or guide people on. And because of that, I do have a really good referral network. I have a referral network where I'm able to honestly pick up the phone and call a mental health specialist and say, hey, I have this person. And they'll tell me, well, because you've told me that they're with you, I'll get them in as soon as possible. Great, let's do that. Because we all need a little bit of support. And I personally think that we underutilize mental health services in our nation because there is a stigma associated with it, unfortunately. But we all do need that additional support, especially when we are battling a chronic-based disease or illness, because we recognize that some days are really good, other days are not. And I think the important component of that is understanding that even though you may have a bad day, and even though you may know, okay, God, I ate this or I did this, and I know I probably shouldn't have had as much as this, that yes, a flare may have occurred. You may be able to control and manage your flare, but we don't have to go into a downward spiral as to, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that. Because at that point, we start beating ourselves up, and that's just not beneficial long term. So finding those coping strategies, finding your support network. And I understand that not everyone is able to see a specialist one-on-one, but there are a lot of support groups out there. So even just being able to speak with other individuals who are going through the disease process, who are navigating each and every day, so you recognize that you are not alone in this. But like I said, I recognize that even though I have a degree in psychology, I'm not a counselor. So I tell people, let me refer you. And I understand that not everyone is ready for that. And I tell them, well, once you are ready, let me know. You'll probably hear me bring it up again, just because I want you to know that this is a wonderful aspect and something that is truly beneficial that I think that you could definitely pull from and gain from.
I love that. I do. And it was something that I talked to, I think with a trauma-based coach in a conversation we were having. And it was just like, people think that therapy is something that they can just tap into whenever they feel like they might just want to talk about something. And it's not a time where you just, well, I'll contact the therapist if I feel like I need to talk. It's more so the opportunity to really get to know yourself.
Yes.
And as you get to know yourself, you don't just get to know yourself whenever you feel like getting to know yourself. You should be able to start to learn yourself almost every single day and find more ways to build resilience, find coping skills, but most importantly, find more ways to love you. And you only do that the more you get to know you. And so I agree with you. If you need the therapy, check into the therapy and find the right therapist for you, but let that thing go long term. You know, you got to get your car inspected, or your car has to get an oil change every so often. You running more than your car is at times, and your life is more valuable than your car. So tap into the therapy. The emotional toll that endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, various chronic conditions, and life events are going to happen. And so your best response is to get more connected with you. So then that way you can navigate those in the best way possible. But you talked about the healthcare system, Dr. Dionne. How can patients advocate for themselves within the healthcare system to ensure that their pain and symptoms are taken serious? It's not always the case with people with endometriosis. It's not always the case with Black women with endometriosis. When they're going into the ER and they're going into doctor's office and they're saying, I am in pain, it's not always taken serious. Tell them, how do we best advocate for ourselves in the healthcare system?
The one big thing is you don't stop talking. That's the one big advice I have for you is don't stop talking. Don't stop seeking until you find someone willing to listen. And we do live in an era where, unfortunately, there are a lot of issues with our healthcare system, and providers cannot always spend the time that you need and deserve. And that is extremely unfortunate. And there are times where I tell people, I understand this, but we need to find you a different provider. And that can be something as simple as looking for someone who is out of network, looking for a concierge-based physician, a functional medicine-based physician, because yes, you are having to pay out of pocket, but now you know that you're going to get the time and the care that you need. You're not getting someone who's having to rush through it. Now, that's not every provider that is in there with insurance, but I have noticed that as a trend, and it is unfortunate. But the biggest thing you can do is don't stop squeaking. They say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Don't stop. Continue to advocate for yourself, continue to seek out providers, and continue to ask questions, because it is a pet peeve of mine when I'm the first person to tell someone, hey, yeah, you have very heavy menstrual cycles. And they're like, well, no one ever told me. My mom had this, my mom had that. So don't assume what you're going through is normal, because we don't often openly talk about those things. So ask questions. And when your provider asks you if you have a heavy flow, ask them, well, can you define heavy flow to me? Don't just give an answer. Ask them questions. And also, as they're asking them questions, if you need clarification, seek that as well, because sometimes we ask these questions thinking that people just automatically assume, got it. Are you having a heavy flow? In my mind, I'm like, okay, so they're having to change their pad every 2 hours and they're soaking through their pad. I also want to know the pad size. And some people are like, no, I don't have a heavy flow, but I've had people have to change their cup every hour and tell me no. So when it comes to advocating, you do have to do a little bit of research, and sometimes the research, it does become tedious, but that's when it becomes important. That's when it becomes important to make sure that you're asking the questions even in your own visits, letting your provider know, hey, I'm worth more than 15 minutes. Please listen to what's going on. Hey, this is my pain. This is what I'm experiencing. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if that person is not able to provide the care that you need, healthcare in our country is because it's a customer base. You have a right to find a new provider. You have a right to refuse treatments. You have a right to say, I would like a second opinion. Those are things that you should know as a patient. You do have rights. And I even tell people that I see, just because I say, oh, I think this would be the best option, or I think we should try this. If you say no, the answer is no. My job is to give you the information. That way you can make informed consent. Me simply handing you a document and telling you read this, it's not informed consent. Got it, you read it, but do you understand it? Do you actually know what that information is saying to you? If not, we have a problem. Got it. They said you need to have this medical procedure. Why? Do you know why? First of all, because a lot of people don't know why. Do you know the outcomes of the procedure? Do you know what potential complications may occur? Do you know the benefits of the procedure? If those questions have not been answered thoroughly, then you may want to ask more questions. Not may, sorry, you should ask more questions, because we want to make sure that you have true informed consent. And informed consent is giving you all of the information. And a lot of people don't, they honestly, a lot of people in our healthcare system, they don't have that true consent that we are trying to advocate and trying to push for. And one last thing you did mention when it comes to minority women, especially Black women, yes, there are some systemic biases that are in place. And unfortunately, we have gotten the short end because of that. And I encourage you to seek out providers the same way that I just said, that are willing to listen. At times that may mean that you're wanting to find a provider that does resemble you or look more like you, and that is okay. Biggest thing, you want someone who's going to listen to you, someone who's going to advocate for you, someone who's going to take your medical state, your health seriously, because our healthcare system right now is not really healthcare, it's sickness care. And we want someone to actually focus on your health.
That was good, Dr. Dionne. That was good. It was what I love most about it. It was more towards the beginning when you were talking about, you asked them what type of pads are they using, how fast are they going through the pads, how fast are they going through their cup. And that, well, I didn't know that my period was heavy because my mom had the same type of period experiences or symptoms that I have. That's powerful, Dr. Dionne. One, because people don't know what's not normal if it's their normal. And
Yes.
so if you're not being asked the question, you're going to think it's okay. I used to think that irregular periods, missing my period, was okay because people would say, oh, well, you're probably just stressed, or, oh, it was probably something you just ate. Oh, it's okay. It'll come when it's time to come. And so I was just like, oh, okay, well, missing a period is okay. It doesn't come all the time. I didn't realize that was not normal. You know, facial hair. I have family members with facial hair. I'm thinking it just runs in my family. It's facial hair. That's a whole sign of a hormonal imbalance, and had no idea. So
Yes.
I love the fact that you talk about recognizing these signs. I would say note take them. If you already have a period tracker, note take that. This is the type of pad I use. I go through so many pads so often. So that way, when you're coming to your doctor, you say, well, my normal is I go through a cup in 1 hour. I
Yes.
go through one pad in 30 minutes. And so they can be like, let's talk about this. Because if you're
Yes.
not bringing the information to them, they have nothing to go off of. And so if you just think that it's all good and it's normal and you're giving them bare minimum about you, they can only give you bare minimum right back to be able to treat you in the best possible way. So to me, that's what really stood out. And what you said was that beginning part. Notate that down. Don't just track when your period actually starts. Talk about the type of pads, tampons, cups, things you're using, how that flow is flowing, so you can get to truly knowing what's happening. Because that's the thing about health is you can look good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what's going on inside you is good. And that was my wake-up call. Stage 4 endometriosis. I'm thinking I'm all good, and you got fallopian tubes all stuck together and things all starting to bind because of the tissue and scarring. And I'm like, what is happening? What do you mean? Like, if that cyst on my right ovary didn't rupture and put me in that debilitating pain, I wouldn't have known that stuff was just growing all over the place and on all different organs. Like, I would have had no idea. But Dr. Dionne, March was Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I had the pleasure to attend your webinar with Dr. Williams, and you were talking about the Ohnut. And can you describe, I'm just saying, like, can you talk a little bit about that, what the Ohnut is and how people with endometriosis could consider that as an option for them when trying to enjoy good sexual health activities, knowing that endometriosis can cause painful intercourse?
Yes, no, definitely. And don't worry, I do have the Ohnut here with me. That way we can show it and talk about it. Yes. I cannot leave this out because painful intercourse is a common complaint with endometriosis, with PCOS, with adenomyosis, with fibroids, with a lot of pelvic-based conditions. So this is a device that I typically talk a lot about with patients, and this is pretty much a penetration buffer. So what you would do, anything penetrating, it would go into the Ohnut this way here, and there are different levels. Okay, so
come on with the levels to it.
Right? Isn't that amazing? So depending on how comfortable you are, I tell people, I said, typically start off with 2 to 3. If you're noticing that it's still uncomfortable, then go ahead and add the 4th one in. But this will allow for, as you are performing penetrative activity, as you come through here, now you're not getting as much. Okay. So you can see versus if I take this off, everything. Okay. So that can allow for people to be able to enjoy intercourse. That can allow for people to be able to tolerate certain positions that were once painful, because we do know that certain positions, such as on all fours or even on your stomach, that can allow for deeper base penetration. And if those are positions that you enjoy and you want to be able to partake in them, this device can help you be able to do that. And one question I commonly get, is it comfortable for partners? Well, I will tell you that patients, when I've asked them, their partners have not complained. It does stretch. Okay. This thing can get pretty big. Okay. And just being honest, I don't know anyone inserting anything this width. Okay. Just being honest. So it can get pretty big. And this is a standard size. They do have one that is also a slightly larger fit. So that way it stretches even more. So yes, I've heard partners say this is comfortable. They use it with lubrication itself. They're able to add it onto the penetrative object or device. And now at that point, they're able to tolerate intercourse again. So let's be real. Intercourse is an important part of relationships. And I've worked with a lot of married people who this is a barrier because they're like, well, we want to be able to. He's afraid of hurting her, and she is afraid to pretty much say, I'm in pain, because she knows that she wants to enjoy intercourse and he wants to enjoy it as well. So you have this unfortunate situation where now no one is speaking up and everyone recognizes that something is wrong. Something as simple as, of course, working along with the pelvic floor therapist, relaxing the muscles, but even grabbing an Ohnut device. That way you're able to actually tolerate intercourse itself, because it's important in relationships, as it is.
It is. And you know what? It is. And some people might not even realize it could even be endometriosis, why sex is so painful for them. Because I remember, I was in college and it was like one of my first time, and I didn't know what was happening. It wasn't going anywhere. This thing was painful. I was like, I don't think I'm relaxed. I think I'm scared. This isn't what it's supposed to be. I thought I was supposed to relax. I was telling my college best friend, I was like, I think something is wrong with me. Like, I think there's just some type of dysfunction. And she was like, nah, you just really have to relax. You have to relax. And it wasn't until the endometriosis and I started seeing so many people say, painful intercourse. I was like, now this whole time, this was a whole symptom of something I had no idea even existed, let alone could have showed me that this is a problem, Giovanni. You might want to talk to your OBGYN about it. I'm thinking it's just me not relaxing and wanting something to happen. And it like painful, Dr. Dionne, even tampons. Painful at times. But you know what? That brings me to a point. You remember you were talking to me and you were saying a lot of people don't know when they go and have their pap smears, they can ask for smaller things. Tell them, Dr. Let people know, Dr. Dionne. Let them know.
So when you go in for your pap smear, you can ask for a smaller speculum size. You don't have to go with the standard size. You can ask for a smaller speculum size. And then also, I don't think, Giovanni, I mentioned this last time, but there are also some gynecologists who are comfortable performing a pap smear without a speculum where they're able to access the cervix. So that can be an option as well. It depends on your gynecologist, their comfort level, so that way they're able to actually see the cervix and properly use the Q-tip itself to gently scrape it. You heard the keyword gently. And then there's nothing wrong when you go in for your women's wellness, that pap smear itself, to tell them, hey, I need a few minutes to just kind of relax. And when you come back in, do you mind explaining to me what you're doing? Because let's be honest, we've all been in that situation where they say, okay, put your feet here. And all of a sudden, all you hear is crank, crank, crank. And you're like, what is going on? Oh my goodness. And that can cause a lot of fear. So just asking them, hey, let me know what you're doing. That way I can tell you if this is comfortable or uncomfortable. And you do have the right to say, hey, that's painful. I don't like this. Now, when you do have a pap smear, some mild discomfort and pressure can be expected, because why? They're scraping the cervix. But you should not be trying to jump off the table and run away. If you have the desire to karate chop anyone, that is a red flag, okay? We need to make sure that they're aware that, hey, this is painful. So yes, ask for a smaller speculum size. If they're able to even do the pap smear without using a speculum, some are not, because I'm going to be honest, it is hard for some people. It's hard to see the cervix and access the cervix without a speculum. So it may not be an option, but at least ask, can we try for a smaller one? Can you take it slower? Can we change my position as well? So that way you can make sure you're comfortable, because we tend to put women in the positions that the doctors are comfortable with them being in, but not the position that they're comfortable with being in.
I like that. And I appreciate you for letting the people know, Dr. Dionne.
No problem.
And for me, it made me think about my OBGYN back in Jacksonville, Dr. Fox, with Fabian OBGYN. And she told me that my cervix was a little to the left. Never asked, but she told me. And it takes professionals to educate and inform people what's actually happening. Because now that I'm living in Texas, when I go see my OBGYN or I go for my womanly, the pap smear, I would say my cervix is a little to the left. So that way you're not forcing, probing, trying to do a whole bunch of looking. I'm letting you know exactly where you should be going, or in the direction you should be going, to better do what you got to do at the comfort of myself, at least some type of comfort for myself. So being able to ask those questions, but it's a whole nother vibe when your healthcare professionals can just tell you a little bit more about your body as they know it, because you don't really know to ask that, you just don't. And so I love that approach that you have. And I love that approach of good healthcare professionals who just want their patients to be informed and educated on what's really happening to their body. So I appreciate that.
I just want to add this one last thing in. If you are able to ask your healthcare provider, not all women will be able to fill their own cervix, but there are a good number who can fill their own cervix. So the different positions that we can get you into, so that way you're able to kind of get better penetration or deeper penetration with your finger. You may even have to use the middle finger because it's longer, but your cervix, when you insert it, is pretty much going to be like the very top, the end of the vaginal canal. If you're not aroused, you likely will not have to go too far. You just have to go just a couple of inches in. If you are aroused, you may have to go deeper in. But even then, it should feel like kind of like the cartilage, like the tip of your nose. And you may even notice like a little dimple. But there's nothing wrong with asking your healthcare provider, hey, can you help me try to find this? That way you at least know, what does this feel like? Where is this at? Because oftentimes we're not familiar with our anatomy, and that can cause a big issue. So make sure like I said, there's some women who just will not be able to find their own, and that is okay. But at least asking those questions and just knowing that there are positions and ways we can move your hips and your knees so that way you can better feel it. And it just gives you an idea, a better understanding of your anatomy, and also gives you an idea as to the actual length of the vaginal canal, because a lot of people have no idea about how long the vaginal canal is and how the vaginal canal can also like tent and expand when they are aroused. So just knowing your anatomy is important when you are advocating for yourself. So please know it, ladies.
I love it. I appreciate that, Dr. Dionne. That was good. That was good. That was good. And something came to me while you were talking about it. I was like, ooh, that's another good point. But I can't recall it at the top of my head right now about what you were talking about. But I want to know, because I know physical therapy and women's health wasn't necessarily like the thing you thought you would just be so passionate about. But you clearly are the right person for what it is that you're doing. And I know you know that because patients call you before they even want to call the other people that they really need to talk to, because you provide that level of service, that level of comfort, and that love for what you do. What research, what advancements or research in physical therapy are you really most excited about right now in terms of improving care for endometriosis patients?
I'm really excited to see more so with physical therapists. There is a physical therapist named Dr. Yenny Abraham, and she's doing some amazing things when it comes to better understanding fertility, when it comes with how physical therapists can help support that, especially with endometriosis-based patients. So I'm excited to see how that continues to unfold and develop, because not saying that we cure infertility issues, but we can come alongside as an adjunct to try to help promote a better environment so that way we can promote fertility itself. So I'm excited for that. Because I'm excited for that, I'm also excited to see how women continue to respond to treatment earlier on with endometriosis, so that way they're able to bear children, because infertility is a huge component alongside of it. Also with physical therapy, it would be nice in general just to have more research as far as how our patients are able to kind of develop and evolve over the years when it comes to things such as painful intercourse. That way we have a better understanding. Okay, so is this something that they're able to manage on their own for a certain amount of time, and then we need to see them again? Because that's what I'm noticing at this point right now. Or is it something that we're able to get them to a point to where they no longer need us at all? And because it is a chronic-based condition, we currently don't have any cures. I'm assuming that, yes, we'll need the ongoing support and care, but I'm wondering how much and how far we can actually go with that, just to see what unravels with the research and all. So it should be nice to see. But I like the collaborative approach that we're noticing with dietitians and going alongside with the surgeons and the physical therapists as well, because that piece, that key, the research we're getting with the lifestyle modifications, that's going to be very important long-term as well.
I like it. And I appreciate you sharing and giving that insight and what's to look out for and what to kind of start getting ready to embrace and be optimistic about in regards to finding those options, because it's definitely needed to rephrase and shift negative thoughts and statements on what you believe is not possible just because of an endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome diagnosis. And I just loved your response to the question, because once you embrace and open your mind to what is possible, you're able to start moving in that direction and doing the things that are necessary for you to be able to see the things that you believe can be possible for you. And I think it's a lot of times I see more people depressed and feeling denied of their dreams because of a diagnosis, because it says how hard something would be and they believe that it's not possible. But when you have people like yourself and the doctor that you just mentioned and stating how lifestyle changes and modifications can truly support the opportunity to be able to do those things, I hope people feel a sense of empowerment just from that statement alone, from what you provided from that one question. So I thank you, Dr. Dionne, for giving us some hope and some inspiration. And hopefully anyone who hears this at any time in their life feels a little bit more empowered and inspired to tap in to a healthcare system or healthcare provider that is just as optimistic as you are with seeing the things that you want to see come true for you and your loved ones. Dr. Dionne, we're talking lifestyle modifications and healthy habits. Can you provide some tips on how people can start shifting healthy habits and lifestyle changes for those who have polycystic ovary syndrome and endometriosis, so they can go ahead and start getting right before they get right with the right professionals?
Awesome. Yes. And I love that you said start shifting, because one big mistake that I see is people try to implement 300 different things at once, and it's discouraging. So let's start small. And you can pick one or two things off the list and then gradually add things in. That way you're able to actually see progress and see success, and you don't become discouraged, because discouragement will kill all drive and motivation. And that's not what we want. Before I had mentioned sleep. Sleep is so important when battling chronic inflammation, when battling inflammation in general. So sleep, most Americans aren't getting enough of it. We should be getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Some people will need a little bit more. And yes, because that's the average, there's some who may need less, but you should be aiming for 7 to 9 hours every single night as best as you can, because I understand that life does happen. Also, how much water are you drinking? Because we're really good about consuming everything but water. And then when people tell me, oh yeah, I'm drinking water, I actually have them track it. They come back and they say, yeah, I got 30 ounces in. Okay. We need to be drinking a lot more water than that. Not only can that help with some of the GI issues such as constipation, but also if your body is properly hydrated, that can better help with the stress response. That can help with proper hormonal regulation, a lot of different things within your system. So how much water should you be drinking? Well, you'll hear some people say they should be drinking 4 to 6 ounces per hour. Now that's not gulping at once. That's taking sips throughout the hour. I typically tell people, because I don't do well with keeping track per hour, I do better with keeping track over the course of the day. Take a look at your body weight. This is a common way that a lot of us do it as well. With your body weight, you want to consume half of your body weight in fluid ounces of liquid, with majority of that being water. So if you're a coffee drinker, I'm not going to take away all your coffee. Just be mindful. Please don't drink 2 cups, okay? Please don't. Keep it at 1, maybe, I'm sorry, 2, what is it? Pots. That's what I mean. Please don't drink 2 pots. Keep it at 1, maybe 2 cups. Don't go for 2 pots. I've seen that as well. But make sure that your body's getting enough water. Now, the measurement I gave you is the starting point. Some people may need a little bit more. Some people may need a little bit less, depending on your body composition, depending on the environment that you live in. You may notice that you need more water, because I do a lot of exercising and working out. And if I sweat more that day, I'm going to need to replenish that. So first thing, sleeping 7 to 9 hours. Next thing, getting plenty of water, half your body weight in fluid ounces of liquid into your body every day. Something else for people to look at is making sure that you're getting enough omega-3s. And this is typically where I refer people also to dietitians or nutritionists familiar with endometriosis, because omega-3s itself can be very beneficial when helping to combat the chronic inflammation. Omega-3s are usually found in a lot of our good fatty fish. So yes, salmon is a good one. Tuna can be a good one as well. Also for individuals who are on various different diets that may be a bit more restrictive. I know you have mentioned this in the beginning, but for my vegans, you have to get vitamin B12. That is usually the biggest deficit I see when it comes to individuals who are vegan, is that they're not getting enough vitamin B12. And that is a direct referral to a dietitian for me, because a lack of vitamin B12 can cause other issues. So we know diet is important. Water is important. Sleep. And then also another big one I tell people is just be mindful, because there are some people who are more sensitive to environmental toxins, and we cannot eliminate all of the environmental toxins that are out there. Every time you walk outside, guess what? You're exposed to something. However, you can eliminate your exposure to certain things, such as what are you drinking out of? Because certain plastics will emit BPAs. Also, certain canned foods can have BPAs as well. So knowing those different things, using more glass containers, that can be helpful as well. It's not going to impact everyone, but if you're noticing that you're having symptoms, it's worth a try. And that's the thing I tell people is, as you're trying some of these tips, don't become discouraged because one did not work for you. Sometimes you do have to play around with it, because I have some patients with endometriosis where they've had to eliminate gluten altogether. And I have others that are like, no, I can have gluten every so now and then. So it is finding the right balance and right fit for you, because God made you unique. He made you an individual. So just a one size fits all is not going to work, but he at least gave us a map and a plan. So from that map and plan, let's take the different pinpoints that we need to get you to your final destination.
Thank you, Dr. Dionne. I'm over here looking at my can like, what's in it? Is this good? What I'm promoting, getting my coconut water in. But I love that you hit on all of that. And the sleep hygiene, that's definitely in the anti-inflammatory guide. I love that you said sometimes I do see that in other endometriosis patients, I guess you could say, or people who've been diagnosed with it, say that gluten wasn't an issue for them. And then some people, it was an issue. And I like that you say, figure it out, and it's going to take time. A lot of time people will say, I've tried everything. Oh my goodness. I see this so many times in Facebook groups. I've tried everything and nothing will work for polycystic ovary syndrome, for endometriosis. And it's like, but how long is everything? And what was the everything that you tried? Because it took a long time for your body to get into the state that it's in now. So it's going to take a lot of time to be able to start shifting and changing things. But I promise you, after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you're going to start seeing things change. And it's not going to be a miraculous, you're there in 90 days type thing. No, that's not going to happen. But you're going to start feeling better. The pain is going to start reducing. The hormones are going to start to say, oh, not 4 weeks, I can go 6 weeks now before I get to do something with my facial hair. And so it's really, like you said, finding what works for you, but going on the journey, because there's no destination on the journey. It's every single day I want to be my best self, and I want to get to the optimum health that I can get to. And that should be the absolute goal. And when you talked about those omega-3s, I was like, ooh, that salmon does sound good. I used to get that salmon in back in the dizzy. But for me, it's been a lot of soaked nuts, like walnuts and pecans and cashews and almonds. And it's like, I had no idea. Like, when people say eat your nuts, you think that, okay, let me just get a handful of nuts and eat them. Like, you could really transform your food experiences to make it enjoyable, to get in the things that you absolutely need that are good for you. And that I think is like my lane. It's like, I'm a foodie and I want to eat good, but I want to make sure I'm eating the things that I need to eat. And so I appreciate you for hitting that B12 again. And a lot of the things that you said, which I'm glad, is in that anti-inflammatory guide. So if you're looking to start making those changes and you're taking it one thing at a time, get the anti-inflammatory guide. Click the Linktree link, and it's the first thing at the top, your free anti-inflammatory guide, and start going through the guide and figure out what shifts and changes can you start making now. And like she said, do not beat yourself up over it, because you're not changing everything all at one time. That's when you start getting overwhelmed. That's when your stress starts to increase. And the whole goal is for you to start stressing, not increase the stress. So just one thing at a time, And over time, you're going to build your confidence because you're still sticking to it and you're doing what's best for you. And those choices are going to empower you to keep making better choices, because you're in control of your healing journey. And I appreciate that so much, Dr. Dionne, because it not only confirms what I've already been putting out there and saying, but it's confirming what I'm already doing in my life. And so it makes me feel good about my M to the third degree healing empowerment formula that deals with mindset, mindful eating, and movement. And I think people take those three entities that I just discussed lightly. And it's simple, as in deep breathing for mindset, or like you said, minimizing the plastic or the toxin and the exposures. All of that's dealing with what you feel, believe, your thoughts about your environment, and
Mhm.
what you can do about you to help you feel better. And then
Yes.
eating, you just hit diet. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the word diet, but you just hit on things you should eat more of,
Mhm.
and consume more of, which is beneficial. And you got me on the water. You got me on the water. And I think so many people say, well, I'm not drinking water, but I'm eating a lot of cucumbers. I'm eating a lot of
Mhm.
watermelon. And so you are getting in that hydration, but is it enough? So just
Mhm.
making sure that you're staying hydrated, I think was key out of what you were talking about. And then, like you said, moving. When you said go outside, I'm like, oh, I'm outside getting in those miles. You're
Yes.
exposed to something, but even getting out there, you're getting that vitamin D, you're
Mhm.
getting your endorphins flowing. So it's like, don't just stay in the house because there's toxins outside. No, go out there and get what you need, but know that you need to flush out and detox the body. And how do you detox the body? Eating those hydrating fruits and vegetables, but most importantly, that water to
Mhm.
continue to flush stuff out. So, man, thank you, Dr. Dionne.
Do you mind if I share one last thing?
You're in the Good Vibe Studio. You're in the
I've
Good Vibe Studio. Let them know. Talk to the people.
So I have permission to share this story. This is actually a patient I've seen, and I am not a healer. I'm an empower. There's a difference. Okay, I empower people so that way they can take control. And this particular patient, like I said, I have permission from her to share. When we first met, she actually told me, she said, I would have killed myself, but I didn't have the energy to do it. She was battling endometriosis. She had undergone various surgeries. She had decided she didn't want any more surgeries. And she was asking me, well, what can I do? And she was already in shock because she's like, well, you're the first provider I've been told to see that actually called me first. I said, well, I got your information from your referring provider. That's why I'm calling. Just want to learn more about you. So it took us a while. It took us months, y'all, to get her to the point to where she didn't need to see me as frequently. We were able to drop down to once a month. And then after probably about 6 or 7 months of that, we were able to drop down again. The last time I saw her was at the start of this year. And that was after 4 or 5 months had gone by. And she told me, she says, and even in the message when she went to schedule, her message said, I'm not a hot mess yet. I just want to prevent that from happening. And she had told me she followed all the recommendations given. She, of course, was not completely pain free every single day, but she was to the point now where she was like, I feel like I can get a job, and I'm very excited because I just got a job. My husband and I are able to engage in intercourse again. She says, and I finally listened to you, and I finally started going for walks. When you mentioned the movement, yes, she finally started going for walks. She finally started actually taking time out of the day just to decompress. So even if for her, it was, she enjoyed music. So just sitting back to a nice track, that way she could listen to music and relax. And she also worked along with a functional medicine physician as well. And I referred her to a functional medicine physician. And I'm so happy that I did because they were able to help do additional blood work and lab work with her to help better regulate certain things. So, like I said, I'm not a healer, I'm an empower, and I just want to share her empowering story with you because she does not have completely pain-free days every single day, but she has more days of pain-free. Her quality of life, she says, has improved, and that is the goal. The goal is to get you to be able to do what you want to do in the best way possible. So, just wanted to share that with y'all.
I'm going to ask, can you share an empowerment story on the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast? Like that right there is that there's no rules to it, but we're here for empowerment, Dr. Dionne. Just like you said, I'm no healer. I'm here to empower. And that's the whole reason why the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast even existed. I wanted people to be able to come and share their journey of strength, whether they were diagnosed with endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, or any other health condition, and wanted to just be able to allow people to see what they went through, what they're going through, and then how are they overcoming those challenges and obstacles. And maybe you might be inspired to try something they did to see if it works for you. But at the end of the day, no one's telling you to do the things that they're doing. They're saying, this is my journey. You're seeing it. I'm visible. I'm vocal. I'm letting you know what's possible, or I'm helping you learn from what I went through so you don't have to go through that. And so it's all an empowerment vibe. Like that's the whole purpose, is just to empower you to take your healing journey and be intentional about it because it's yours. And another thing you said, she's not pain free every day. Mm-hmm. I never said pain free. I said reduce chronic pain. That's the goal. The goal is to reduce it as much as possible because there's just some things, like we already found out, that there's no cure for endometriosis. There's no cure for polycystic ovarian syndrome. But what we've been saying this entire episode is that you can reverse, you can minimize, you can decrease, and still have a good, vibrant life. And that's just what it's all about. So Dr. Dionne, we got 2 final questions. You ready?
I'm ready for it. Let's hear it.
All right. So here we go. Because you have 3 children. And I feel like you got girls.
I have 2 girls and a little boy. My older 2 are girls.
There we go.
Is a boy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I want you to give some tips or some insight to girl dads or male role models in regards to supporting those young girls, whether it be their menstrual cycle, but how do we bring them a part of the conversation so they're a part of that support system and they're able to also understand or know when things aren't right? Because I know endometriosis isn't a menstrual issue because it can be a whole body condition, but I really want men to be more a part of the conversation and in the support system. So how do we get them involved? What tips, insights that would you provide to men? And not just for daughters and young ones, but also for partners, people who might have endometriosis and, their significant other would like to be a little bit more mindful in that supportive role. Give them some insight, Dr. Dionne.
The best thing you can do is listen. If someone is telling you that they're hurting, listen to it. You may not be able to fix their pain because I know that is a common trend. Just when it comes to just the different genders, women tell men an issue, men want to fix it. And if a man can't fix it, a lot of times they can shut down, but be willing to listen and be willing to help her find resources. And as you are listening and helping her find resources, also be willing to advocate for her because you may have to be the person to stand up and say, no, I don't think that is right in the midst of asking her how she feels as well. Because unfortunately, a lot of times women are not acknowledged or listened to, but the man can be. So if you are there and you're able to have that role, advocate for your loved one so that way they can receive the care they need. And I do not have endometriosis myself, but I can tell you it makes a difference because my husband had to advocate for me receiving healthcare when I was not able to verbalize in various situations. And even when I was battling different things, he was the one who had to come and take control. And I'm happy that he did because the response that he received and I received, they were different. And that's with me being a medical provider. He received a better response at times. So it is important that the men are able to advocate. And you don't have to know what's normal. You just have to be willing to ask questions and be willing to listen to what the women in your life, the girls in your life are telling you. Because a lot of dads, and there are single dads out there who are navigating menstrual health with their daughters, open a book and read. And sit down with them and ask them questions. I understand it can be an embarrassing topic, but even then it may be saying, hey, I need to call their pediatrician. So that way I can have a one-on-one lesson. So seek out resources and ultimately listen to your loved one. That way they can get the care they need and they know that they have your support. Even if things are not going the way they want them to go, they know that you're willing to go to bat for them.
Thank you, Dr. Dionne. I appreciated that. I like it. I've heard listen a few times. I like to open the book. I love you might have to advocate and say, no, I don't think this is right. Because sometimes people would listen to a male before they listen to a female. And so even having them in the hospital to best say what is happening, what's going on. So I love that. Thank you, Dr. Dionne. Last question. You ready?
I'm ready for it. Let's hear it.
If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would they be and what would you all eat?
Oh, just one person? Oh my.
Because it's Dr. Dionne, if you want more than one, because I did have a few people who created a table full of people.
It's okay. I'm gonna pick one. I'm gonna pick one because I'm hoping I make it to heaven so I can see Jesus. That's the other person I want. if I make it there, I get that one. That's the goal. But Maya Angelou, I would love to be able to sit down with her. Just knowing from what I've read in different books and just knowing about her history as to how she grew up and the relationship that she had with her mom and the difficulties she experienced and still I rise. Come on. Right? Like how amazing was she as an individual? And the people that I've heard who have met her, they said that she was the person that rather than telling you about herself, she wanted to know more about you because she wanted that connection. So I would love to sit down with someone who is just a giver of that nature and be able to learn how to better give to other people because she seemed like such an inspiration. So that would be the one person I picked. Because like I said, I'm hoping I make it to heaven to see Jesus. So
you're not the first person to say Maya. And this is like tomorrow, episode 37 drops. So this is probably going to be when people see this is going to probably be episode 39. And I've had so many other people in these 39 episodes that have been recorded that have also said Maya Angelou. Like, I love this. I mean, they said Jesus too, and I heard you say Jesus. Episode 38, the one before this, she definitely said Jesus, and some other people said Jesus before as well.
We're consistent.
I think one other person, one or two other people. But Maya, it's been more Mayas than Jesus. But that's really okay. Okay. Did you tell me what y'all eat?
Say it again.
Did you tell me what y'all were eating?
Oh, tonight the kids, I haven't eaten just yet. I know that's really bad.
No, Dr. Dionne, you and Maya.
Oh, am I? Oh, would I say what I would eat? Oh, yes. Oh, so yeah, we're eating tonight. Oh my goodness.
Create a plate for you and Maya Angelou.
So okay, we were to eat. Oh my goodness. So it would be one of two things. It would either be gumbo. My family's from Louisiana, so I love gumbo. Or we lived in Italy for a few years. Or it'd be zuppa de cose, which is like a mussel soup, and it has like bread in it to help soak up the sauce. So it would be one of those two. It would be one of those two. I love food.
Just made my mouth water. It was the soaking of the bread in the soup for me. That's what got me. That's what got me good. All right, Dr. Dionne, let the people know where they can find you.
Awesome. Well, I can be found on Instagram. You can follow my company's Instagram. It is at rainpt.wellness. Rain is REIGN. And we're on there. We're also on TikTok underneath the same handle, on YouTube as well. So if you have questions, you have any concerns, feel free to reach out. And then I tell people this all the time, even if I'm not the provider for you to treat you, reach out so I can help you find somebody who can help you. We can probably find you a local provider when it comes to pelvic PT. And from there, they can help you with their own referral network as well. Because the goal is to make sure that you get what you need. Doesn't matter from who, but as long as they're qualified and compassionate, you got to get the care you need.
I love it. Dr. Dionne, thank you for coming through to the Good Vibes Studio and being an awesome guest on the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. I am so grateful for what you do every single day. And so just thank you for being you. And thank you for knowing how valuable you are in this thing called life and in the world. And so I hope you remember to make sure your cup is filled for you, because you do so much to fill others. So thank you for that. And y'all, it's been another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. It's your healthy habits and lifestyle coach, Giovanni. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you have subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast distribution platform, please make sure you're following the podcast and you also rate it and support the podcast. But ultimately, click the link in the description of the video, that link tree, get your guide and shop and look around at anything else that you might be able to do in order to keep vibing with me, y'all. I love you. I thank you. But most importantly, keep being intentional about your healing journey, because you deserve all the things that you know you want out of life. So we love you. We thank you. But most importantly, be easy.